I'm really sorry if I have to speak a little bit faster than usual, because there are so many things I need to cover. That's why I want you to bear with me, because we're going to talk a lot about this thing. Last week, some of us asked these questions, because the topic for last week was actually about the state of the dead. And we have already learned that the dead are sleeping now, okay? And their breath of life, or the breath of God, or the spirit, has returned to God. That's what we learned last week. And then the question is, if the spirit or the breath of life has already returned to God in heaven, so who or what are the ghosts that people claim to see? There are two possible answers, actually, and Brother Lucas, he was here last week, and then he mentioned these two possible answers. The first one is the ghosts that people claim to see, they were actually Satan and his angels in disguise. And the second possible answer is God knows that we miss our beloved ones, and so he allows us to see them and maybe communicate with them so that we will become more peaceful in the end. As we all know that my father passed away like 6 years ago, and the moment I miss my dad so much, and God somehow knows that I miss him so much, and then God will allow me to speak with his spirit, and that is one of the possible answers. But that is the theory that that we have been introduced with. But let's search the scriptures, or let's see what the Bible really tells us, okay? As we all know that this fellowship is based on the scriptures, and just like Martin Luther said, sola scriptura, back to the Bible and to the Bible only. So we're going to see what the scriptures really tell us. Okay, we can see something here on screen, right? Are you familiar with this kind of thing? Have you ever seen this in the movie?
No.
You never seen this in the movie? Okay, this is, if I'm not mistaken, it's taken from the Exorcist. Okay, this is from the movie Exorcist. Okay, about someone, you can see the girl. Well, she's not an ordinary girl anymore. She used to be an ordinary one, but now she was possessed. She was possessed by a demonic spirit. And you can see there are priests standing nearby, and there's these priests are performing exorcism, which means to cast out the demonic spirit inside this girl. And this one, are you familiar with this movie?
Yes.
Yes, Ghost, right? Ghost, right? Yeah, well, we can see, right, in here that this man is actually already dead, right? According to the movie, this man's already dead, but we can see the ghost of this, the spirit of this man is still alive, right? And this woman, just like the theory before, this woman really missed her boyfriend, okay? And then somehow you can see the man, the spirit of the man still roaming around, and still, they still can love each other, and yeah, they can still feel each other. And this one, are you familiar with this movie? Well, if I'm mistaken, this one is taken from The Ring or what?
No.
I'm not sure. But anyway, if you are familiar with at least one of these images, I can say, all right, if you are familiar with this one of the images, that means that you have at least joined the class of Spiritism according to the Hollywood point of view, okay? That's the class of Spiritism according to Hollywood's point of view. Now let's see, now tonight we're going to talk about the scriptures. What do the scriptures tell us about Spiritism? Okay, this is what we learned last week, Ecclesiastes 9 verse 5. For the living know that they will die, but the dead know nothing. They have no further reward, and even their name is forgotten. So we all know that we're going to die, of course. That's why some of us, we're taking vaccine, right? Some of us want to get vaccinated. Why? Because we're scared of death, right? And we all know that we can die anytime. we are so aware of it. However, the deaf people, they're not aware of it anymore because they don't realize of anything that happened around them. The deaf know nothing. They have no further reward, and even their name is forgotten. This is what we learned last week. Now let's go to Genesis chapter 3, verse 1 and 2. The first recorded spirit medium. When I talk about medium, that means that the spirit cannot be seen by our eyes because we're living in flesh. You understand? We're living in flesh and we cannot see the spirit. However, the spirit can use a medium. Okay? The spirit can use a medium. The first recorded spirit medium is recorded in Genesis chapter 3, verse 1 and 2. Now the serpent was more crafty than any of the wild animals the Lord God had made. He said to the woman, did God really say you must not eat from any tree in the garden? The woman said to the serpent, we may eat fruit from the trees in the garden. So we can see right here that Satan was using the snake as a medium. All right. Satan is using the snake as a medium because the snake couldn't talk. And even until now, snake cannot talk, right? Animals cannot talk. But then again, we know that Hollywood teaches us that sometimes we can see Tarzan can talk with animals, right? And sometimes the animals can talk back. Like, I forget the movie Dr. Dolittle, if I'm not mistaken. Dr. Dolittle, he can talk with animals and stuff like that, right? But actually, animals, we all know that they cannot talk with us. Probably they can use their gestures and some things like that, but they actually cannot really communicate the way I'm talking with you right now. Probably we can just tell a dog to, okay, sit down, come here, go there, just like that. Okay, that's the way of communication that we have between us and the animals. But we cannot just, when I talk with you right now and trying to make you understand, I cannot in the same way talk with the dogs. The dogs will not understand, especially like right now we're talking about the medium. The dogs will not understand. What do you mean by medium? We all know that. That's why the snake cannot talk, but Satan used the snake as the medium, right? And so, and what the problem is, what is it for? What is the purpose of using a medium? 2 Corinthians 11, verse 3. But I am afraid that just as Eve was deceived by the serpent's cunning, your minds may somehow be led astray from your sincere and pure devotion to Christ. Which means that the only purpose that Satan was using the medium, which is the snake, was actually only to deceive Eve. And later after that, we know that Eve and Adam, both of them were deceived. So that's the only purpose why Satan was using the medium. And even until now, Satan keeps using medium. Why? Because Satan wants to deceive human beings. Why? John 8, verse 44. You belong to your father, the devil, and you want to carry out your father's desires. He was a murderer from the beginning, not holding to the truth, for there is no truth in him. When he lies, he speaks his native language, for he is a liar and the father of lies. So we all know that when I speak Indonesian, well, I can speak English, but my native language is Indonesian, right? And you guys, all of our native language is Indonesian. If the Vietnamese are here, their native language is Vietnamese, right? But Satan, what is his native language? Scriptures tell us that his native language is lies. So that's why this is a warning also to all of us, brothers and sisters, that when we lie, remember, we are actually trying to say the language of Satan, which is lie. So that's why, again, from the very beginning, Satan has been lying to many people. Okay, that's the reason why Satan was using the medium, which is the snake. All right, now let's go to Deuteronomy 18, verse 10 to 13. Let no one be found among you who sacrifices their son or daughter in the fire, who practices divination or sorcery, interprets omens, engages in witchcraft. Okay, interesting. Or casts spells, or who is a medium or spiritist, or who consults the dead. Anyone who does these things is detestable to the Lord. Because of these same detestable practices, the Lord your God will drive out those nations before you. You must be blameless before the Lord your God. Okay, now let's get back. Let's get back to verse 10. So we all know that, of course, we cannot sacrifice our children, right? Well, long ago, and until I forget the period of time, some people actually practice this kind of thing, which is to sacrifice their children. And God really hates that thing. That's why God says that the Israelites, they cannot do that. Okay. And also, in addition to that, the Israelites, they cannot practice divination. They cannot do some kind of fortune telling. Sorcery, we all know the sorcery, witchcraft things, interprets omens, and so many other things. Like here, verse 12, cast spells, right? Cast spells. Also medium or spiritist, which means that we cannot call the dead. We cannot consult the dead. Well, we all know that in the Hollywood movies, sometimes we can see the gypsies, right? They offer that kind of service, I can say. And also in Indonesia, we can see some people, I don't know about in Vietnam, but in Indonesia, we can see some people actually, they offer some kind of service that if you want to be rich, okay, I can give you quick instant wealth, right? I can give you money, all right? Or if you want to be fortunate, or if you want to get a wife, or to God, this is a very detestable thing, which means that God doesn't tolerate this kind of thing. And we can see right here, oh, probably we might say that, okay, I'm not doing any of those things. And we might feel confident because I don't do such thing. But remember, nowadays we get some modern stuff, I can say, if you can understand what I mean. We got the horoscope. We got the astrology. Sometimes we want to see what is going to happen to us within this following week or the following month. We are so eager to know about our future. But in here it says that we cannot do such thing. Okay, Deuteronomy 18 verse 10 to 13. Another verse, Leviticus 19 verse 31. Do not turn to mediums or seek out spiritists, for you will be defiled by them. I am the Lord your God. Again, that's telling us that we cannot do such thing. We cannot turn to mediums. We cannot consult the dead for what we need to do. We cannot consult them. We got the parents, we got the pastors, we got was it counselors, right? Yeah, we can talk with them, right? We can talk to our best friends or whoever they are, but we can never consult the dead. Why? Because the dead know nothing. So the problem is, if someone or people claim to see the ghost or the spirit of their beloved ones, who are or what are these ghosts? We're going to come to that a little more time. Leviticus 20, verse 6 and 27. I will set my face against anyone who turns to mediums and spiritists to prostitute themselves by following them, and I will cut them off from their people. A man or woman who is a medium or spiritist among you must be put to death. You are to stone them. Their blood will be on their own heads. Wow, this is really scary. And it seems like God really hates this kind of practices. Why is it that God really hates this kind of practices? We're going to answer that soon. But first of all, we must know that it is truly forbidden. Okay, the Israelites long ago and even until now, we are not allowed to consult with the dead. We can never turn to mediums or spiritists. Why? Because of this, verse 6. Because we are prostituting ourselves by following them. Which means that we are closely connected with God, but we are having an affair, I can say. We are trying to have an affair with someone else or something else. Let me tell you, brothers and sisters, okay? When we talk about idols, okay, some people out there, yes, they worship the statues, okay? And if we have idols, whatever idols we have, probably can be gain, can be our money, can be fame, okay, our appearance, or can be anything else, or maybe can be our phone. Those things can be idols. All right. And God is a jealous God, which means that God doesn't want to have another thing which is more superior to him. He wants to be the number one in our life. Okay. But this is a different story. This is way worse than what we've been talking about. What I'm trying to tell you is when we consult the dead, when we turn to mediums or spiritists, we must know that we are prostituting ourselves by having an affair with the demon, with Satan himself. And we all know that Satan is the greatest enemy of God. So when we turn to the mediums or the spiritists, that means that we are having an affair with Satan, which is the greatest enemy of God. We all must know that. All right. So that's why God really abhors, or God really detests this kind of practices. That's why God said that if you do that thing, I'm sorry, but I need to cut you off. Why? Because this thing is going to spread. Okay. I'm talking about the Israelites long ago, because they live in the same surroundings. You know, if one of them did that thing, and that thing is going to spread, and it's going to be really fatal. It's going to be really dangerous. Why? Because everybody's going to practice the same thing, and then God is going to be angry with them. And we all know that sooner or later, the Israelites would be gone. That's why God said that if you see anything like that, make sure that you cut it off, because they cannot be there, right? Because you are having an affair with the demon, with Satan himself. And that's very risky. Let's see again. Okay. If you can remember, especially Chila, because Chila was here with us 2 weeks ago, when we're talking about Prophet Samuel, right? And King Saul, the first king of Israel. Okay. So that time, I promised you about the story. Okay. I want you to please pay attention to this story. All right. It's recorded in the 1 Samuel 28, verse 3 to 17. I know it's kind of long verses, long passage, but I want you to please bear with me, because this is very important, because we can take conclusion in the end. All right. Let's see. Now Samuel was dead. Okay. Samuel is the prophet. Remember, prophet. Okay. He's a good man. Samuel was dead, and all Israel had mourned for him and buried him in his own town of Ramah. Saul had expelled the mediums and spiritists from the land. So again, so a prophet named Samuel, that time he was already dead. Okay. And Israel was mourning for him. And that time Saul, King Saul, okay, this is the first king of Israel. Saul had expelled the mediums and spiritists from the land. So right at the time, Saul had done what God asked him to do, which is to expel all the mediums and the spiritists from the land. Okay, so Saul did the right thing. Let's continue. Verse 4. The Philistines assembled and came and set up camp at Sunem, while Saul gathered all Israel and set up camp at Gilboa. Okay, let's see. When Saul saw the Philistine army, he was afraid. Terror filled his heart. Okay, please pay attention. He inquired of the Lord, but the Lord did not answer him by dreams or Urim or prophets. So we all know, after Prophet Samuel was dead, and then Saul had already expelled all the mediums and spiritists. And then now we got a situation right here. The Philistines, that time, they were having a war with the Israelites. And we all know that King Saul was the leader or the king of Israelites. Okay, so the Philistines, they were going to have a war with the Israelites. Okay, I want you to please bear with me, and so that we can understand the story here. And when Saul saw the Philistines' army, okay, he was afraid, right? He was afraid. Yeah, presumably, probably because maybe they are more or much greater in number compared to the Israelites. Okay, and so he was afraid. Terror filled his heart. And in here it said he inquired of the Lord. He asked the Lord, but the Lord did not answer him. If you study the Bible, you know that right at the moment, actually Saul had already done great mistakes. Okay, he had already done great mistakes, and so the Lord was not pleased with him, and so the Lord did not answer him. And that time, as you can read right here, the Lord did not answer him by dreams, or by Urim. Urim is, if you know, this Urim is actually worn by the high priest. So the Lord did not talk to him through the high priest as well, and the Lord did not talk to him through the prophets as well. And so God did not talk with Saul anymore. Let's see, verse 7. Saul then said to his attendants, "Find me a woman who is a medium, so I may go and inquire of her." Okay, again, so Saul was kind of depressed because he was scared of the Philistines, and then he was kind of desperate because, oh no, because the Philistines, they're attacking our army, and then so that's why I got to do something about it before they enter this land. So Saul was desperate, and then in his desperation, I can say, he asked his attendants, "Guys, do you know any medium in this land? Please find me a woman who is a medium so that I can ask her about what I need to do." And then the attendant said that there is one in Endor. Let's see. So Saul disguised himself, putting on our clothes, and at night, he and two men, okay, two attendants of his, went to the woman. And then when he met the woman, finally he met the woman, okay? And remember, this woman is a spiritist, is a medium, okay? Don't forget, this woman is a medium or a spiritist, okay? And when he found her, he said, "Consult the spirit for me," he said, "and bring up for me the one I name." But the woman said to him, "Surely you know what Saul has done." Remember, this woman, she didn't have any idea that it was Saul actually who was talking to her. Okay, she didn't know that it was Saul. She didn't know that it was King Saul. All right, and then she said like this, "Surely you know what Saul has done. He has cut off the mediums and the spiritists from the land. So there is no way I want to do that practice anymore, because if King Saul knows that I'm still doing this kind of practice, oh, I'm going to be dead. No way, I'm not going to do that." Remember, so the woman said that. The woman said like that. "And why have you set a trap for my life to bring about my death?" So the woman at first, she hesitated and she didn't want to do it, right? And then verse 10, Saul swore to her by the Lord. He made a promise. He made an oath. Okay, he swore. He said, "As surely as the Lord lives, you will not be punished for this." So Saul was kind of like giving him like a guarantee that no way, I'm not going to let that happen. I'm not going to report it to King Saul, okay, that you did this kind of thing, all right? But and remember, he didn't say to the woman, to the medium or the spiritist, that he is King Saul, okay? I hope that you understand that. And then verse 11, then the woman asked, "Whom shall I bring up for you?" So finally, the woman agreed. Okay, all right, okay. Don't tell Saul about this, okay? Now, tell me, whom shall I bring up for you? And then King Saul said that, "Oh, bring up Samuel," he said. When the woman saw Samuel, she cried out at the top of her voice and said to Saul, "Why have you deceived me? You are Saul." Okay, so the woman was surprised because, remember, she tried to call the dad, which is Samuel, Prophet Samuel. Remember, Prophet Samuel's already dead. Okay, and then when Samuel showed up, and then the woman finally recognized that, oh no, who is asking for Samuel anyway? Oh, probably this is not ordinary guy. And then the woman turned to Saul, and then she finally recognized him, and then she said, "Oh, you're King Saul. You put me in a trap. Why are you putting me into such trap? You're Saul. Why have you deceived me?" In other words, she said like that. Okay, but then the king or Saul said to her, "Don't be afraid. Okay, don't be afraid. It is me. I was the one who asked you to call for Samuel. Okay, but tell me, what do you see?" All right, and the woman was kind of relieved because she's not going to be put to death. Remember, because King Saul was the one who asked her to do that. And then the woman said, "Okay, I see a ghostly figure." Remember, ghostly figure. Okay, a ghostly figure coming up out of the earth. All right, and who is that? What does he look like? King Saul asked. An old man wearing a robe is coming up, she said. Then Saul knew it was Samuel, and he bowed down and prostrated himself with his face to the ground. Well, you can see it's exactly the same thing like, hold on, this. Am I right? Right? It looks exactly the same like her boyfriend. That's why she can recognize him in the movie. The same thing actually happened in the Bible. I see a ghostly figure coming up out of the earth. And what does she look like? An old man wearing a robe is coming up. And Saul happened to see him probably. And then she said, and Saul knew it was Samuel, and he bowed down and prostrated himself with his face to the ground. All right, I want you to bear with me. Let's see what's happening after that. Samuel said to Saul, remember, they have some kind of communication, right? They have dialogue here. Samuel said to Saul, why have you disturbed me by bringing me up? I'm in great distress, Saul said. The Philistines are fighting against me, and God has departed from me. He no longer answers me, either by prophets or by dreams. So I have called on you to tell me what to do. Remember, he called for Prophet Samuel, and Prophet Samuel's already dead, remember? And then he wanted to talk to him because he wanted to consult with him. And what is the question? Because he said that he's going to have they're going to have a war, right, with the Philistines, right? So he wants some advice from Prophet Samuel because he had no idea because God did not talk with him anyway. And then listen to what Samuel responded. Samuel said, why do you consult me? Now that the Lord has departed from you and become your enemy. You can see that, right? It's interesting because it seems like this prophet Samuel actually said that why you're talking to me, you know that the Lord is kind of like angry with you right now, right? The Lord has departed from you and now the Lord has become your enemy. So the Lord is not going to answer your prayers. Something like that. Samuel said like that. And Samuel said again, the Lord has done what he predicted through me. Remember. So before, let me tell you something. I don't know whether you have already known this story or not, but the Lord has already talked to Samuel previously. And the Lord has said through Prophet Samuel that the Lord or God doesn't like what King Saul did before. And so the same thing, Prophet Samuel said that the Lord has done what he predicted through me, and the Lord has torn the kingdom out of your hands and given it to one of your neighbors, to David. Okay, we all know that King David is actually the second king. Later, after King Saul died, and King David is going to be the king. But again, so we can see right here, we got a situation right now, right? He had a dialogue, King Saul had a dialogue with, what is it? With who? With Prophet Samuel. Okay, and it seems like until this point, we might think that, okay, probably it could be true. It could be true that just like, all right, let me go back a little bit because anyway, Brother Lucas is with us right now because this is what Brother Lucas said previously. Because the second possible answer, look at that. God knows that we miss our beloved ones. And so he allows us to see them and maybe communicate with them so that we will become more peaceful in the end. So God, in other words, God knows, remember, let me change it a little bit, okay? But still the same concept. God knows that King Saul missed Prophet Samuel, okay? And so God allows King Saul to see Prophet Samuel and even to communicate with Prophet Samuel so that King Saul will become more peaceful. Why? Because at least King Saul knows what he needs to do, right? Though we all know that in this story, Prophet Samuel said that, okay, God has departed from you, so God's not going to answer your prayers because God is not pleased with you. Okay, in other words, Prophet Samuel said that. Now let's get back to this. Let's see what the scriptures really tell us. This is really interesting. Bear with me. 1 Chronicles 10 verse 13. Saul died. Remember, King Saul died because he was unfaithful to the Lord. Remember, before that moment, Saul had done great mistakes. Okay, we're gonna come to that some other time because anyway, this is another topic. But anyways, King Saul had done great mistakes. In addition to those mistakes, look at this. He did not keep the word of the Lord, and remember, he even consulted a medium for guidance. You see that? This is very, very important. King Saul was not talking to Prophet Samuel. Because if King Saul was talking to Prophet Samuel, of course, God would not be angry with King Saul for this, the second part of this verse. But God said that he was angry with King Saul because King Saul consulted a medium for guidance. Who is the spirit that King Saul saw? Let's see Job 7 verse 9 and 10. As a cloud vanishes and is gone, so one who goes down to the grave does not return. He will never come to his house again. His place will know him no more. Can you conclude something here? Job 7 verse 9 and 10. It's talking about the dead. As a cloud vanishes and is gone, we all can see, when it's cloudy out there, we can see the clouds there, right? But when it's windy, we can see that the wind actually blows the clouds away, all right? We all know that. And it's the same thing. Similarly, we all know that the dead or people who go down to the grave will not return. He will never come to his house again. His place will know him no more. So right now, if I go to my father's grave and I try to, this sounds silly, but if I try to meet my dad right now, my dad is sleeping right in the grave right now. But if I desperately want to meet my dad right now, if I dig, the grave, I'm not going to see my dad the way I looked at him before. Of course, it's going to be really creepy because anyway, from dust to dust, maybe I can only see the skeleton, the skulls, and things like that because the flesh already the flesh already gone, right? Because from dust to dust, we all know that. We already learned that together. But again, we cannot recognize the dead any longer. The only time we can recognize our beloved ones is the time when Jesus comes at the second coming. That's the moment. If I meet my dad, I'm going to recognize him for sure. But right now, if I go to my father's grave, I'm not going to recognize him because it's going to be really creepy because he doesn't look the same as when I know him before, right? It's going to be different. It's the same thing. That's why Job said that no one, so those who go down to the grave will not return. He will never come to his house again. His place will know him no more. So let's see this. 2 Corinthians 11, verse 14 and 15. Who is the spirit? Who is the spirit that King Saul saw? Listen, and no wonder, for Satan himself masquerades as an angel of light. It is not surprising then if his servants also masquerade as servants of righteousness. Their end will be what their actions deserve. So I'm also quoting verse 15 because it is very important for us as well. Let's get back to verse 14 first. So again, Satan, remember, brothers and sisters, Satan can masquerade as an angel of light. This is very important. Satan can masquerade as an angel of light. All right? Put it in your mind. If Satan can masquerade as an angel of light, what makes it hard or what makes it difficult for Satan to masquerade as our beloved ones who have already passed away? It is a very easy thing for him to do so. In the same way, if Satan can masquerade as an angel of light, what makes it hard for him to masquerade as Prophet Samuel? Let's see this. And even here, Prophet Samuel spoke as if like he was the one who spoke it, who spoke these very words, right? Why do you consult me? See the way he talks to King Saul. But we all know what the scriptures tell us. And this also, I intentionally quote this thing. It is not surprising because his servants also masquerades as servants of righteousness. That's why I keep telling you, brothers and sisters, this is very important to all of us, okay? When you join any kind of services, all right, or let's say like what we're doing right now, we have this kind of fellowship, make sure that you don't just believe whatever I say. Similarly, don't just believe what the pastors say. Don't just believe what the priests say. Don't just believe what the imam says or what the clerics or what the religious leaders say. Why? Because this is very important. His servants, which means the servants of Satan, can also masquerade as servants of righteousness. That's why we have the false prophets around us. And that's why this teachings of Hollywood, I can say, it's already crept in Christianity. And this kind of spiritism, consult with that, talking with the dad, it's already crept in Christianity. Many people said that when someone dies, the spirit of that someone still roams around, can sometimes haunt us, or probably, when someone dies and we can just say, oh, your father, your mother, your kids are already in heaven. Whereas we actually have already learned last week that that's not what the Bible teaches us. So again, Satan himself can masquerade as an angel of light. So we know that who met King Saul that very night? It was Satan himself. It was not Prophet Samuel. All right? It was not Prophet Samuel. Why? How do we know that? First Chronicles 10 verse 13. Because God was angry. God said that God was not pleased with it. Why? Because King Saul consulted a medium for guidance. All right? And First Timothy 4 verse 1. The last verse. The Spirit clearly says that in later times, some will abandon the faith and follow deceiving spirits and things taught by demons. All right, this is very important. We all have already learned for these past 3 weeks about the Spiritism, about the state of the dead, about what is going on with the dead right now and what will happen to them later on. We have already studied those things. However, we also studying what I can say, the Hollywood teachings or the Spiritism. Okay? And the scriptures tell us, the scriptures prophesy that at the end of time, people are going to abandon their faith and they're just going to believe what the world tells us. What is that? The Spiritism. There you go. This kind of thing, right? As if like the spirits live eternally. As if like the spirits can go to heaven if the spirits, if those people who are dead are actually good people, they can just go straight to heaven. But we all have already learned that it's not biblical. Okay, this thing too is. I have a question. Can this thing really happen? Yes, it can happen. But my question: who makes this girl? If you ever see like this kind of thing, if someone get possessed, what is or who is inside that very person? Let me tell you one thing, and it's very clear. The Bible says that it's demonic spirit. It's not the spirit of the dead long ago. No. Or you can see right here, it's not the demonic spirit of a girl who got killed many years ago, and then probably the murderer is not in prison or not punished yet. So that's why the spirit or the ghost of that girl is like roaming around, and that's kind of Hollywood things is not true. It's not real. So that is the message for us tonight. So I hope that we all can learn something, and it's very important for us. And First Timothy 4 verse 1, Hopefully we are not taking any part of this kind of people who abandon their faith and follow deceiving spirits. So remember, brothers and sisters, next time if you see any spirits who we loved before, like for example, in my case, like my dad or my friend who just passed away last week, for example, remember when my brother asked the other night, my brother said that if I'm not mistaken, he said that he saw, and my mom also said that they saw like the spirit of my dad because it looked pretty much like him. And I darely said to my brother and my mom that he's not actually my dad. Okay, it's Satan himself. And remember, Satan can masquerade as an angel of light. So it is so easy for Satan to masquerade as our father, our mother, our grandma, grandpa, or whoever we love. Okay, why? Because only for the purpose of deceiving us so that we believe that our spirit is eternal. Hopefully it can answer the question asked last week, especially for Brother Lucas, because Brother Lucas and my brother and few of us actually asked this question. Hopefully it can answer the questions. And it's time for us
Thank you so
to,
much.
yes, and it's time for us to have discussion, right?